Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Hello everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wankwa coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. And as usual, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. Folks, ignore the buzz about a few bigots trying to detract from the success of the Air Peace debut flight to Gatwick Airport, something Nigerians in general should be celebrating. Let's focus on Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku, the lady in charge of Federal Aviation Authority, FAA, and the kudos that Allen Onyema has given her for how she's gone out of her way, regardless of all the, what Igbos call mbokburu, that certain people in the federal ministries have been doing to affect the operation of Air Peace. Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku has gone out of her way to be a true Nigerian and do everything it takes to make the Air Peace movement from Lagos to Gatwick and back to Lagos very, very successful. I doff my hat to Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku. Also, instead of wasting time on irrelevant bigots and the things they say about Isiago, whether it should be one or not one, that's irrelevant. Isiago is there to stay. Allen Onyema is an Igbo man. Allen Onyema is the chief operating officer and the founder of Air Peace. And he found pride in wearing Isiago, which is what he grew up wearing. If somebody else finds pride in clothing their air crew with Ankara clothes, it's a beautiful thing. It's Nigerian. If somebody else finds pride in clothing their crew with what the Fulanis wear, it's their pride. I love the things Edo people and the Chekiri people wear. All those things are beautiful. If Allen Onyema had found pride in wearing any of those, and he probably will, knowing how Nigerian he is, it's a beautiful thing. Me as an Igbo person, I wouldn't mind if the crew was wearing Ankara. I wouldn't mind if the crew was wearing the Edo style or the Fulani style or the Ibibio style. What difference does it make? What I mind, and the question that I have, but I'm only going to dwell on it for 1 second because these bigots are irrelevant. The question that I have is, what's wrong with wearing Isiago? Let's focus on things that are more important. And since this episode wants to talk about some of the bigoted distractions that happen in Nigeria, I'd rather focus on Bayo Onanuga, Nigeria's news distortion man-in-chief. I'd rather focus on his phobia about Peter Obi, and I'll play you an interview he had with Sheung, but not on Channels TV, on Sheung's podcast, and how this man cannot sleep at night because of Igbos and Peter Obi is something that baffles me. But I'll play you this and I'll comment on it. And I'll also share a lot of beautiful things that happened with the Air Peace flight to Gatwick. It's a beautiful thing. It's a pride thing for Nigeria. And I wish more Nigerian airlines would find their own licenses to fly the world. Nigerians are champions when we put our heart to it. It's when we focus on the things that divide us that we are not able to achieve the things we can achieve. I hope you enjoyed this edition. I want to make it a short one. I don't know about you, but I just find this so beautiful. A Nigerian airline, after so many years, finally landing again in London, but more importantly, being the one who calls the shots for how much will be charged. And now to Bayo Onanuga and his tomfoolery. Before I go back to the celebration of air peace, I just want you to hear this misguided journalist interview with Sheung.
Onye ọma zoro obi o, akwa nwa nwa zoro obi o, Max ịbịa bunye gokwanụ m n'ofube n'azụ ụlaga n'ịbịa zugo, mmanwụ ụlaga do n'ịbịa zugo, akwa nwa nwa ilochi o, biko rapụ zoro ka ọ nabazi ya.
For the first time in a very long while in our country, we had a candidate who was inflaming ethnic passions. And that was the way the election went at that time. It was inflaming ethnic passions, even religious passions, bringing two dangerous things to our politics: ethnicity, religion.
That's what Peter Obi was doing.
That was what he did. And those things were dangerous to our Nigerian politics.
All I have to do is shake my head. And while I shake my head, let me sarcastically remind you Nigerians that it was Peter Obi who picked a Muslim and Muslim ticket in Nigeria for the first time, regardless of all the problems and the balance we have between Muslims and Christians in terms of distribution of people in Nigeria. It was Peter Obi who picked a Muslim to run with a Muslim. Secondly, remember that it was Peter Obi who sent out thugs in Lagos to go and maim, harass, kill, and stop Igbos from voting in Lagos. I just want to remind you of those things. And it was Peter Obi who had his police and soldiers and security forces. It was Peter Obi and Labour Party who had their forces in Port Harcourt, where Onyesom Nwike maimed, killed, intimidated, and stopped people from voting for Peter Obi. I just thought I'll remind you of that. Okay, folks, air peace to the pride of all Nigerians, all of us, now flies directly from Lagos to Gatwick. In the process of doing that, he has slashed the flight prices from Lagos to Gatwick. And even British Airways and the other airlines who have been coming to Nigeria and ripping off Nigerians have brought their prices proportionately down. That's a beautiful thing for Nigeria. But no, it's not. You still have haters. You still have bigots who find fault in the uniforms that the Air Peace flight crew was wearing, and they feel that it's an Igbo type of attire. Gosh, Igbo type of attire. The shame of Nigeria is that nothing Igbo works for a certain segment. But as I always do, that certain segment is not representative of the entire tribe. It's a certain segment that just feels so uncomfortable with Igbos. And I have a story to go with this to calm down anybody who thinks I'm making this a tribal thing. It's not a tribal thing. It's a bigot thing. And we'll address it when we get to it. But let me start out with sound bites from Arise TV with Alan Onyema, the founder of Air Peace.
Who are those who fight for you, Nigeria? I saw the Minister of Aviation there. Is he fighting, for air peace in Nigeria? Secondly, the government of Antigua even called you to come and partner with them as regards their airline. When is Nigeria going to call you and say, this thing we're trying to do with Ethiopian airline that we got burnt for, why can't you take it over? Because you've shown capacity.
If we go by history, it's not going to happen. Now, in fairness to the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, I've criticized him in the past. But on this matter, he has really stepped up and he has worked with Air Peace and seems to want to continue to work for Nigerian Airlines to get their fair share. So let's be fair to the Minister of Aviation. In this case, he's not part of the bigotry. Air Peace is owned by an Igbo man. There is no way on earth a Fulani cabal influenced Nigeria and a pocketed Fulani cabal administration is going to empower an Igbo man to be the flagship for something Nigerian. No, they don't see a competent person. They see a person that keeps them awake at night, plotting how to hold him down and make sure he doesn't rear his head. There are allusions to the fact, don't quote me, I saw the reference and I saw Olusegun Obasanjo's name signed at the bottom, but because I didn't hear it from his mouth, I don't want to say categorically that he said it. But there are allusions to the fact that Obasanjo once said that policies in Nigeria that if they are made would tilt towards benefiting Igbos are quashed and never brought to light because the policymakers do not like to see Igbos be the flagship on anything that can benefit Igbos, even if it benefits the entire country and in the process benefits an Igbo person as the person who is handling it. It's a shame. But these are behind the scenes, unsaid, unwritten policies that the bigots and the cabal developed since 1967 to keep Igbos down in Nigeria. But before anybody accuses me of being tribalistic in my views, let me make it clear that the person in charge of FAA, the Federal Airports Authority, is a Yoruba person. Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku. That woman is an incredible, fair-minded Nigerian that has been fair in all his dealings with her. So this thing I'm talking about, bigotry, has nothing to do with Yoruba people. There are Yoruba people performing their jobs excellently in Nigeria with fairness, but it doesn't stop me from talking about the bigoted statements that came from some Yorubas. The shame of what goes on in Nigeria and Igbo phobia is the beauty of what goes on in the operations of Air Peace. And as an Igbo person, I call it beautiful. If the same was going on in a Fulani or Yoruba operation, you'll be hearing the people saying, Igbos are dominating. If you go into the offices of Air Peace, especially in Lagos and Abuja, you're going to find that 80% of the employees are non-Igbo. But more importantly, a significant percent of the 80% are Yorubas. But most importantly, the chief operating officer of Air Peace is a Yoruba person. But that's swept under the rug. Nobody sees that. And this is how Igbos operate across Nigeria. There is no place you find Igbos in Nigeria that you don't find Nigerians being empowered. But everywhere you find Igbos in positions to be empowered, you find certain segments of our people, our population, in positions to stop the Igbos from getting what should be theirs. You find them trying to stop it and frustrate it. Why do I keep bringing these topics up? Because I've been saying that since 1970, there has been a news distortion crew headed by people like Bayo Onanuga and Dele Alake and Femi Adesina, those kind of people in Nigeria whose full-time job since 1967, but especially since 1970, has been to distort the news against any way that it will benefit Igbo people. It's an unwritten policy. Bigots are sick of hearing me say it. Even some non-bigots are tired of hearing me say it in the interest of, Fred, leave it alone now. Why do you keep saying that? The reason I keep saying that is that the only way it will change is that Fred is not the only one saying it, but every progressive Nigerian should be saying it to the face of the bigots till they get embarrassed into changing their ways. There is no problem with Nigeria other than bigotry and tribalism. And there are people who bigotry and tribalism have benefited in Nigeria since 1970. And this is not limited to non-Igbos. The bigotry and the benefits of bigotry in Nigeria and inequity also has to do with cabal-pocketed Igbos that benefit at the expense of their own people. If we are all going to live in a happy Nigeria, the bigotry needs to stop. That's all I'm trying to say. Again, I know that people don't like when I say this, but I promise you I'll never lie to you. And I'm willing to debate you anywhere, anytime, so we could discuss these matters. But what I want to bring you next is what an Igbo person trying to build a business in Nigeria goes through in the hands of fellow Nigerians. The earpiece story is a microcosm of what every Igbo person has been going through in Nigeria since 1970.
Mr. Yema, congratulations. I mean, we've seen the stories, the positive side. I mean, everybody is celebrating. The cost of tickets has gone down. You are selling your own tickets in Naira, like the other people who are selling their own in foreign exchange because they have to repatriate funds. Then, of course, we're told Nigerian food will be served, you know, on the flight. So different people have different reasons to be excited. But, I mean, the road to this moment, I don't think was just smooth like that, the way everybody is jubilating. We must have faced some challenges before we got to this point. Will you take us through some of those challenges?
First of all, you suffer what I call both internal and external conspiracies. It took us 7 years. We got the designation, I think, about 6.5 years ago, to go into London. Since then, it has been cat and mouse game. We actually procured our 3 777s because of this route, not for any other route, because we wanted to give it the blow that it deserved as at that time. However, we were not allowed to go. It's not just, whether you like it or not, there's what we call international aeropolitics, which is very dirty. We applied to get, for the TCO. TCO means Third Country Operators Permit. You must get that, excuse me. You must get that one before you start going into any European country, UK inclusive. And the TCO organization from Europe wrote our Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Do you know airpeace? Do you know about their designation? And we were denied. My own country denied us. So you got designation from the federal government, and the NCA, under the same federal government, was telling you that you should not make any application towards going into the UK. Meanwhile, you gave us the nod to go to China, go to India. China is 14 hours, about 13 hours going to Guangzhou and 14 hours coming back. India is about 12 now because of the closure of the Sudanese airspace. About 12 going, about 13 coming back. Yet, you didn't find this airline worthy to go into the UK, 6 hours, a piece of cake. For an airline that is doing over 160 hours of flying daily in this country, no other airline in the entire West and Central Africa does that much. We are now going to audit you ourselves, not minding the result of the IATA people they recommended. At first, I didn't want to acquiesce to that. My Chief Operating Officer, Mrs. Toyin Olajide, said, "Oga, please, let's follow them."
Did you hear how beautiful that sounded? His chief operating officer, the next person in charge after him, an Igbo person who owns the company, is Mrs. Toyin Olajide, a Yoruba person. In my ears, that sounds sweet. I know you hate to hear it, but the same situation in a Yoruba company. There'll be complaints and what Igbos call mbokburu, doing everything it takes to get rid of that Igbo person. There's no section of Nigeria Igbos go to and they don't do what it takes to empower whoever deserves to be empowered. And for air peace I believe in Allen Onyema's judgment. Mrs. Toyin Olajide is the best person to hold that position, and she does. And the bigots that are complaining about Isiago never take a look at these details, or maybe they feel entitled that Igbos should give them jobs in Igbo-owned companies, but Igbos don't deserve what's theirs when it comes to their own place.
For the first time in a very long while in our country, we had a candidate who was inflaming ethnic passions. And that was the way the election went at that time. It was inflaming ethnic passions, even religious passions, bringing two dangerous things to our politics: ethnicity, religion.
That's what Peter Obi was doing.
That was what he did. And those things were dangerous to our Nigerian politics.
You don't think that Ashwaju too did that and the APC?
If Ashwaju did that, he would not have lost Lagos.
But those who believe the Muslim ticket was a religious politics.
Now, except for bigots who have no patience for whatsoever, is there any Nigerian in good conscience that believes that Peter Obi was inflaming ethnic bigotry and religious bigotry, except for the chief news distorter of Nigeria, Bayo Onanuga, and probably his fellow distorters, Dele Alake and Femi Adesina, and the bigots who listen and follow them. And like I've tried step by step in this video to make sure you get me right, Yorubas are not bigots, but Bayo Onanuga, Dele Alake, and their fellow bigots are bigots who should be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. But no, they serve in Asha Rock. And think of who builds Nigeria, who has shed blood for Nigeria, who has done everything it takes to keep Nigeria one, who travels every inch of Nigeria feeling that it's our country for good reasons, and who hibernates in their own place and complain that Igbos don't sell them land when they've never made an attempt to leave Lagos and cross into Shagamu. Think.
Let me tell you what happened yesterday at the international airport. When our own aircraft landed, thank God I was there. This thing had happened before. We reported to FAAN. And let me excuse the leadership of FAAN here. Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku is doing fantastically well. Himself and the director of air operations, Captain Abdullahi Mahmoud, they are pained. They are pained with the wickedness in the system. Civil servants. The wickedness in the system is thinking. Your only carrier doing international operations in Nigeria would land and you keep us somewhere in the bush, disused side of the airport, and expect us to be busing passengers, bringing rickety buses to come and take international passengers to the new terminal, where these foreign airlines rejected when they opened. It was Airpeace, because it's my country, that decided to go in there. They begged Airpeace to do that. We went in there. When they did the runway, they wanted to do runway analysis after the lighting. It was Airpeace Nigeria begged. They didn't have money to fuel a 777. A 777 consumes about 8,800 liters of fuel per hour. It was Airpeace they brought to come and test it. We even told them, let's use our smaller planes because of the cost. They said, no, it's the 777 they will need. We did it free of charge. I don't want to enumerate things we've done for both the government and people of this country. Now, The new airport, you will park us 2 kilometers away from the terminal. Then you expect us to be doing bus, whatever. That plane that landed yesterday, it would have taken about 6 hours for people to exit that airport. Because first of all, they put us near Nako Shed, very far. Nobody is using that end. No aircraft, not even foreign or local, nothing there. That was where they told my pilot to park. Meanwhile, C-23 at the new terminal was open, where you can just park the aircraft and the Avio bridge will key in. And when my captain called, he said they reserved it for a foreign airline. I said,
Really?
Yes. Quote me.
At the expense
At the expense of a Nigerian airline.
A Nigerian airline?
Yes, they did it before. They did it before. One of my captains, Captain Kalisto Sifai, disobeyed them. And they wanted to punish him. I came out. And Olubunmi Kuku and his team, his management, criticized that. In fairness to her, they criticized that. Now it happened again yesterday. Our aircraft from London was to be packed in one bush 2 kilometers or so, or 1.5 kilometers to our terminal.
Welcome to being Igbo in Nigeria. That's what Igbos go through in Nigeria. But shamefully, that's what other Nigerians whose life is smooth for, at least smooth in the sense that when they qualify for things, they go in, they get it. That's what they either don't notice because for them life is good, or they know that it's going on, but because of the advantage they've had since 1970, it's all good. It's Igbos. Why are they complaining? Folks, there's not a single thing an Igbo man is asking in Nigeria that's asking you to give him anything. All he's asking is a fair playing ground. Let the winner take what he deserves. Yorubas will win some, Fulanis will win some, Edos, Efiks, Ibibios, Ijos, everybody will win some. Simply give an Igbo man a chance to win the one he deserves. That's not too much to ask. And if you insist you don't want him to be part of it, set him free to go live in his own country. That's not too much to ask. How many ways can I say this? But all people want to do is gag me. Fred, stop talking about it. Stop. How can you stop talking about atrocities and live with good conscience simply because you don't want to rock the boat? It comes a time, like Yorubas in their own words will say, Bole ya ko ya, bodele dogun ko dogun. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fred Nwankwo coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bull Talk on Island TV. And as usual, good night and God bless.
Esi nwanne m ekene ịlapụlụ ife niile na-eme wee bịa nke gosili na anyị na gị bụ nwanne wisdom megade ka nye gị maịkị ka ogobanya bụ egwu esili maxi ọ bụ na-etiri egwu a malụkwa malụ n'imego m ife ọjọọ wee sị gị nwanne m ife ọbụ na ịchọlụ na ngeme wisdom onume ekene gị gbamanwụ iyo iyo biko lapụ nabasị ya zoro 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 Joy na bugwa Hausa Sokoto Ujembe Mwilo Anu solo nwe nwe manofia nara